Welcome back to 10 Items, where curiosity meets flavor and even the simplest kitchen tool tells a story. Before we talk about gadgets that beep, blink, or brew at the push of a button, we need to go back to the beginning, to the time when cooking wasn't about recipes or brands, but survival. Fire, stone, and hunger shaped what would become humanity's favorite room, the kitchen. The first kitchens didn't have walls. They were open clearings, circles around flame. There were no knives forged by masters or shiny pans waiting on racks. There were stones, rough, cracked, imperfect, and yet those stones changed everything. Fire gave us warmth, protection, and most importantly, transformation. Raw food became edible, tough meat turned tender, bitter roots grew sweet. Cooking wasn't just a discovery, it was civilization taking its first breath. From that moment, the kitchen became humanity's laboratory of comfort. Our ancestors didn't know it, but when they started grinding grains between stones or skewering meat over embers, they were designing the first kitchen tools. The pestle and mortar, the stick, the flat rock, all primitive versions of what we now see in chrome, silicone, and steel. Every gadget on your counter today is a descendant of those first rough inventions. As people settled, fire moved indoors. The first hearths were dug into earth floors, lined with clay or stone. Around these, families gathered not just to eat, but to connect. Cooking was no longer survival, it was storytelling. Every meal marked an event, a hunt, a harvest, a celebration. The aroma of roasted grain or sizzling meat became a language that spoke of safety, community, and belonging. The kitchen became the heart of every home, and in many ways it still is. Fast forward a few thousand years. Civilizations rise, Egypt, Greece, Rome, and each leaves its mark on how we cook. The Egyptians were among the first to use baking ovens, making bread a daily ritual. In Greece, clay pots became works of art as much as utility, painted with scenes of feasts and gods. The Romans refined everything, introducing metal cookware, water mills for grinding grain, and even rudimentary temperature control by adjusting charcoal placement. They didn't just cook, they engineered their meals. When Rome fell, the kitchen dimmed with it. For centuries, the open hearth ruled again, smoky, central, chaotic. In medieval Europe, castles had vast kitchens with roaring fires, giant spits turning game, and armies of cooks working in heat and haste. The tools were heavy, forged from iron. Each had a purpose and each demanded skill. A cook wasn't just a servant. They were a craftsperson, someone who understood flame and timing better than most generals understood war. Meanwhile, across the world, other cultures were crafting their own culinary revolutions. In China, the invention of the wok changed everything. Its curved shape allowed for high heat and quick cooking, efficient, flavorful, and energy-saving long before the term existed. In Japan, knives became sacred tools, their design influenced by sword-making traditions. The santoku and the yanagiba weren't just instruments of slicing, they were symbols of respect for ingredients. In Africa, stone grinding persisted as an art form, mortars carved from wood, pestles worn smooth from years of rhythm and labor. Food wasn't just made, it was felt. Across Nigeria, Ethiopia, and beyond, the sound of grinding grain or pounding yam wasn't noise. It was music, the heartbeat of a home. In South America, clay pots known as ollas carried tradition in their pores, used to cook stews, beans, and maize for generations. These tools weren't disposable. They were heirlooms. By the 18th century, the kitchen began to transform again. Science started entering the scene. Stoves replaced open fires. Instead of managing flames directly, cooks controlled heat through iron plates and flues. Suddenly, precision entered the kitchen. Measuring spoons and cups followed, born from the growing need for consistency. What once was instinct became an art of balance between measurement and magic. Knives also evolved. From rough forged blades came specialized shapes, chef's knives for versatility, paring knives for detail, serrated blades for bread. Each form told a story of function refined by time. A good knife became a reflection of its owner's care, kept sharp, clean, balanced. It wasn't just a tool, it was an extension of skill. And then came the revolution of cleanliness. The industrial age didn't just bring factories, it brought soap, plumbing, and hygiene awareness. Kitchens moved from smoky chambers to cleaner, brighter spaces. White tiles, stainless steel, enamel, symbols of purity and progress. For the first time, cooking was not only about taste, but also about trust. People wanted to see where their food came from, how it was handled, and what it touched. The 19th century gave us the modern stove, oven thermometers, and even the first mechanical mixers. Suddenly, cooking wasn't just for the wealthy, it became accessible. The middle class began to see the kitchen not as a servant's domain, but as a personal space of pride and care. Cookbooks flourished, led by figures like Fanny Farmer, who brought science into the art of recipe writing. Measurements, times, and temperatures became the new language of culinary mastery. Still, through all the progress, the core remained the same. The knife and the board, the timeless duo, stood firm. The pan and the spatula never lost their place. Even as innovation raced ahead, these basic tools held their ground. They reminded everyone that no matter how advanced we become, cooking always starts with the simplest acts: chopping, stirring, tasting. The kitchen became not only a place of work, but a place of connection. It was where parents taught children how to hold a spoon, where laughter echoed over simmering pots, and where the day's chaos softened into the comfort of dinner. Every tool, from the largest pot to the smallest whisk, carried fingerprints of memory. The 20th century brought an explosion of gadgets. Electricity entered the kitchen, and with it came toasters, blenders, mixers, and refrigerators. What once took hours could now be done in minutes. The idea of convenience was born. Yet every new invention came with the same quiet promise: to make life a little easier and food a little better. But let's pause here, because before we get lost in chrome and electricity, it's worth remembering that each new gadget owes its existence to something ancient: necessity and creativity. The same two forces that made our ancestors grind, stir, and roast around the first fires are still shaping kitchens today. Cooking at its heart is an act of care. Every tool we've created, every shortcut we've invented, every recipe we've passed down, they all trace back to that simple truth. Whether it's a stone, a spoon, or a smart oven, the goal has always been the same: to nourish, to connect, and to create joy. And that's where our story truly begins, not with gadgets, but with gratitude. Gratitude for the hands that cook, the tools that serve, and the meals that bring us together.